but their identities within the sport. They weren't just YouTubers stepping into a ring anymore, they were competitors with something to prove, carrying the weight of a rivalry that had grown beyond social media exchanges and into something that felt much more real. Every interview, every face-off, every moment leading up to the fight added another layer to that tension, building a narrative that wasn't based on curiosity, but on unfinished business. You could feel that shift in the way they approached the moment. There was less showmanship for the sake of entertainment, and more and that's what gave the rematch its unique significance. It wasn't just a sequel, it was a transformation. A shift from spectacle to competition, from novelty to narrative, from "let's see what happens" to "this has to be settled." From the very first exchanges, it was obvious this wasn't a repeat of their first encounter, it was an upgrade. The chaos and raw, unrefined energy that defined their initial fight had been replaced with something far more controlled, far more intentional. Both KSI and Logan Paul stepped in with a level of focus that reflected not just better preparation, but a clearer understanding. There was intention behind the pressure, behind the way he closed distance and created awkward angles. On the other side, Logan Paul showed a more composed approach, using his physical advantages with greater awareness, managing range, and picking moments rather than forcing them. What made this so compelling wasn't just that they had improved, it was how that improvement showed itself. The fight felt like a chess the first time they did at the same time, even with all the added structure and improvement. The rivalry itself never faded into the background, in fact, it was always right there beneath the surface, shaping the way every exchange played out. Because this wasn't just a technical contest, it was still deeply personal. Every punch carried more than just intent. It carried history, pride, and the pressure of everything that had been said and built up between them. And that pressure wasn't just internal, it came from millions of eyes watching, from fans who had picked sides, from expectations that had grown far beyond the ring. Both KSI losing intensity. Who could balance rivalry with discipline? That intersection, where emotion meets technique, is where fights become truly compelling. Because in those moments, you're not just watching skill. You're watching everything behind it come into play at once. As the fight moved deeper into the rounds, it became clearer that this wasn't just about improvement, it was about contrast. The difference slow things down and operate within a more controlled framework. And that clash created a constant push and pull dynamic. There were moments where Logan seemed to establish control, keeping things at range, making the fight feel measured and composed. Then suddenly, KSI would disrupt that rhythm, closing the gap, forcing exchanges, shifting the pace back into something more chaotic and harder to manage. It wasn't one-sided dominance, it was a battle of influence, where control changed hands in subtle but important that could carry him forward. But then KSI would answer, sometimes through pressure, sometimes through awkward timing, sometimes just through sheer persistence, breaking that rhythm and forcing the fight back into a space where control wasn't so clear anymore. And it worked both ways. Whenever KSI seemed to be building energy, pushing forward and creating uncomfortable exchanges, Logan would adjust, using distance, resetting the pace, and finding moments to respond with more measured actions. These weren't always dramatic, and every round feels like it could shift the direction of the fight. In that kind of environment, fans aren't just watching, they're anticipating. Waiting for the moment where that balance finally breaks, or wondering if it ever will. There were also moments throughout the fight where the outcome of an exchange didn't come down to power or volume, but to the smallest details, the kind that are easy to miss in real time, but end up making all the difference. A slight adjustment in timing, a half step in positioning, a split-second decision to throw or hold back, these were the moments that quietly shaped how effective each fighter was when the exchanges actually happened. Because it did to influence the direction of the fight in subtle but important ways. You could see both KSI and Logan Paul making adjustments, not just out of instinct, but based on what they had learned in real time. Certain approaches that worked early on were revisited, refined, and sometimes expanded. At the same time, tactics that had been countered or exposed were either modified or used more cautiously. It became a process of trial, response, and recalibration, happening continuously as the fight unfolded. That's where the fight gained another level of depth. Because it wasn't static, it was evolving. Compelling.